President Trump heads to Arizona to campaign tomorrow, and both candidates will be in Minnesota later this week. Both of those states are on the target list for the campaigns. Our CBS News Battleground Tracker shows Vice President Biden now with an edge in both. In Arizona, he is up 3 points, 47 to 44. And in Minnesota, a state that President Trump lost in 2016 by just 1.5 points, now Mr. Biden is up by a 9-point margin. CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto joins us with more from his poll. Good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning, Margaret. How are you?
I'm well. So it was tight. We knew that in Arizona, but now Biden has pulled ahead. What accounts for that?
Well, we saw this start to move over the summer, Margaret, amid concern over coronavirus and how the administration was handling it. That is still a huge factor. We find that people who are concerned about the virus, and there are still many, are less likely to vote for the president. And we find Joe Biden with a lead on people's perception of who would handle the outbreak better. But we wanted to understand more about why. And people tell us that looking back, they're more inclined to give the administration blame for how this was handled than to give them credit for perhaps mitigating the effects of the outbreak. And, I should add, Margaret, the president, as you noted, is still very much in play here, is in the mix. And one of the reasons for that is continued strong support from his base. His Republican base is still with him, and they also see this very differently. When we ask them to look back, they're more inclined to see the president as having staved off what could have been a worse outbreak by doing what he did. And so I think that underscores the fact that it's how people evaluate things, not just what they evaluate, and the framework that they use in comparison that really matters and shifts votes here, Margaret.
A key point. And what about on the issue of pocketbooks? What about the economy?
The president does relatively best on the economy of the issues that we measure here, and in fact, a little bit of an edge over Joe Biden on it. It's interesting, in particular for his supporters, the president's supporters, we find that even if they've been financially hit by the impact of the outbreak, they still give the president credit and still think that his policies are going to make things better.
So tell me what's happening in Minnesota, because the Trump campaign has said they think they can flip it, but your data's not showing that.
The white working class voters that were so important to helping the president make this close in 2016 are still largely with him, but some of that base has eroded. Now, that base still believes the president is better on the economy, and better specifically when we ask about things like manufacturing, like agriculture, industries that may be important to them. But going the opposite way, Joe Biden is gaining in this state, as he is in many states, with, in particular, college degree holding voters, college degree holding women. There's a reason for that. They say in even larger numbers that they're voting for Joe Biden to oppose the president. They feel in even larger numbers they don't like how the president handles himself personally. And I think if there's one key group that's been trending towards the Democrats you want to watch in all these states, it is those college degree holding women with whom Joe Biden is building much larger leads than the Democrats had back in 2016, Margaret.
Minnesota was the state where this social justice movement has really erupted out of following the death of George Floyd. What were the perceptions that you found there in terms of what's actually going on with the protests?
Yeah, we wanted to understand just how people could see this so differently. We know that folks on the left and the right have very different views of the protests, but you look at folks on the left and they emphasize seeing the protesters as intending to raise awareness of racial discrimination, trying to change policing policies. But for folks on the right, they look at it and they see protesters as intending to destroy property and be violent and looting, and also as perhaps even trying to overthrow the government. What I think this underscores is that different groups of folks can look at the same thing and come away focusing on different aspects of it. And that again underscores this, why it is people may come to very different views. I think, Margaret, I would add that that's a thread running through this entire race, which is to say, voters are very locked in. We see more than 9 in 10 people who say that they've already made up their minds and they're not moving.
Key point. Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much for your analysis.